Economic term that describes the people or businesses that would buy a product. Perfect. Market is the correct choice. Which of the following is not an indicator of a nation's economic development? On track. Major religions is the correct answer. Fishing, mining, farming, and forestry are examples of what economic activity? Nice selection. Primary is the correct and valid answer. An economic system that has elements of a free enterprise and command economy. Solid response. Mixed economy is a valid choice. Economic activity that involves taking raw materials from the earth or water. Great job. Primary sector is the accurate answer. Which of the following economic activities require the least amount of land? Nice work. You chose banking, and it is correct. Types of economic systems. The government controls all means of production. Good job. Your answer command works well here. Economic activity sector that provides services to people and businesses. Well done. Tertiary is the right choice. What is the basic support system needed to keep an economy going called? What? Excellent choice. Infrastructure is the right answer. Economic activity that involves using raw materials to manufacture goods. Strong choice. Secondary sector is the right answer. People who work in which of these perform tertiary economic activities? Bravo. A restaurant is the answer. Which of the following are all examples of primary economic activities? You chose agriculture, fishing, and mining, and it is correct. All of the following are indicators of HD according to the UN, except. Good thinking. Geographic is the right answer. Who or what answers the basic economic questions in a command economy? Exactly. Government makes sense, and it is right choice. Which resource is mainly responsible for South Africa's economic gain? Smart move. Gold diamonds is an accurate answer. Which of the following is not an example of tertiary economic activity? You're right. Fishing is the correct answer. An economic system in which people choose freely what to buy and sell. You got it. Your choice market economy is right. Which of these economic activities is considered as a strategic one? Smart pick. Energy production is the correct choice. Milling lumber into plywood is an example of what economic activity? Well reasoned. Secondary is the correct choice. Which of the following is one of the three basic economic questions? Sharp thinking. What to produce is the right choice. Which of these can be categorized as a secondary economic activity? Clear logic. Your choice textile production is sound and 100% true. Which type of economic activity requires extensive areas of land? Correct response. Commercial agriculture is the most accurate answer. Average amount of money earned by each person in a political unit. Correct. Per capita income is the right answer. In which economic system do the US and Canada primarily operate? Right choice. Free enterprise system is the best answer. The greater the country's level of economic development, the dash. Excellent. Higher the standard of living is a brilliant choice. Which of the following is not a disadvantage of economic unions? Great thinking. Less restricted access to natural, human, and capital resources is the right choice. The term situation is used to describe which of the following. Right again, the relative location of a city is a valid answer. Which of the following is the main effect of industrialization? Nicely done. Urbanization is a solid answer.
Wheat farming is an example of which type of economic activity?
Well picked. Primary is the correct answer. Farming, mining, fishing, and forestry are all considered to be valid point. Primary economic activities is true. How economies of the world interact with each other is known as well-reasoned. Economic geography is the correct choice. A system in which people produce and consume goods and services. Sharp thinking. Economy is the right choice. This type of economic activity can be found near the consumer. Smart move. Tertiary sector is an accurate answer. The scientific study of human society and social relationships. You got it. Your choice, social science, is right. Which is the best example of a footloose economic activity? Nice work. You chose a software engineering firm, and it is correct. Which of the following is a primary sector economic activity? Valid point. Mining is true. Which of these is an example of quaternary economic activity? On track. Google, providing information from a search, is the correct answer. Insurance would be an example of an economic activity in the great job. Quaternary sector is the accurate answer. A job working in a factory is part of which economic sector? Right choice. Secondary is the best answer. Most democratic countries today have which economic system? Exactly. Mixed makes sense and it is right choice. Economic activity that involves the production of services. Perfect. Tertiary sector is the correct choice. The economic region with the highest growth rate in China. Excellent. Hoanam is a brilliant choice. Which of the following is not primarily an economic union? Strong choice. United Nations is the right answer. In countries that are not industrialized, most people work. Well picked. In primary economic activities is the correct answer. Geographers divide economic activity into sectors called. You chose primary, secondary, and tertiary. And it is correct. In a command economy, economic decisions are made by the. Nice selection. Government is the correct and valid answer. Which economic region is the heart of Chinese industry? You're right. Northeast is the correct answer. This type of economic activity uses resources directly. Excellent choice. Primary sector is the right answer. What is the role of household consumers in the economy? Smart pick. Consumers of goods and services is the correct choice. What type of economic activity do coal miners perform? Right again. Primary is a valid answer. The study of commercial geography is beneficial to the. Nicely done. Economic development is a solid answer. Materials on, or in the earth that have economic value. Clear logic. Your choice natural resources is sound and 100% true. Which of the following is not an economic indicator? Correct response. Tourist attractions is the most accurate answer. Secondary economic activity examples include all but. Good thinking. Insurance agent is the right answer. An example of a quaternary economic activity is dash. Good job. Your answer research works well here. Economic and commercial geography is the branch of. Solid response. Human geography is a valid choice. Which factor does not influence economic activity? Great thinking. Population distribution is the right choice. What is the secondary level of economic activity? Bravo, manufacturing and processing is the answer. What is America's most important economic region? Well done. Northeast is the right choice. How many levels of economic activity are there? Correct. 4 is the right answer. What economic activity sector is farming under? You got it. Your choice primary is right. Why is the US Canada's largest trading partner? Smart move. All of the above is an accurate answer. Which of these is a primary economic activity? You chose farming. And it is correct. Traditional economic practices focused on dash. Smart pick. Self-sufficiency is the correct choice. A dash engages in tertiary economic activity. Sharp thinking. Police officer is the right choice. What are the costs of the use of resources? Strong choice. Health problems, environmental impacts, depletion of natural resources is the right answer. D measures dash to determine development. Excellent. Cultural and economic indicators is a brilliant choice. The way people produce and exchange goods. On track. Economic system is the correct answer. Example of a secondary economic activity. Great thinking. Car manufacturing is the right choice. What are quaternary economic activities? Right choice. Jobs concerned with research and development is the best answer. The 4 factors of production are dash. Well reasoned. Land, capital, entrepreneurs, and labor is the correct choice. The production of goods and services. Right again. Economic activity is a valid answer. Primary economic activities rely on. Nice selection. Natural resources is the correct and valid answer. What economic activity is farming? Exactly. Primary makes sense and it is right choice.
Which one is an economic system?
Valid point. Command is true. Secondary economic activity is. Well picked. Using resources from primary activities and creating a product is the correct answer.
What are economic activities?
Solid response. Ways in which people make a living is a valid choice. GDP per capita is the dash. Correct response. Economic output of one person in a nation is the most accurate answer. Economic sectors are dash. Nicely done. A and B are correct is a solid answer. How is GP measured? Well done. Economic activity and wealth is the right choice. How you will get all these quiz questions in PDF books format. Clear logic. Your choice contact Narayan Chengda is sound and 100% true.